A tuatahi ake, māku hei mihi atu ki a tātou kua huhu mai nei tēnei pō. Raru i te tāwharautanga o tēnei tō tātou whare o tūranga. Tēnei au ka te tiro ki waho, ka kite i te taone o tau tahi noho mai nei. Tēnei au ka mihi atu ki ngā tini tīpuna kua riro atu no tēnei whenua. I takea mai, i wātea mai tēnei huarahi ki a tātou te tū mai nei tēnei pō. Rātou ki a rātou, tātou te pito ora ki a tātou, ti hei Māori ora. Kua hau tēnei te pō tiki o te Hutana-Waitoa. Taku pāpai hara mai i tiki i ngā tiparau, taku māma no tūranga nui a kiwa i rungo whakaata, engari i tūtaki mai rātou ki konei, rāua ki konei, ka whānau mai mātou ki konei, ana i tēnei rā ka ki au no konei au. Taku wahine rā tēnā, Briana Hutana, no roto mai o rāpaki, o roto o tuahiwi hoki. Tēnei māu e mihi atu nei. Ka huri au ki te reo hoko prāo i tēnei rā, mo aku tamariki. Good evening, everybody. It's so much more comfortable speaking te reo for the whole time than I would, but like I really have a message to give to you tonight. So you'll find me jumping in between languages if that's all right, but that's just how I roll, sorry about it, but not really. So I'm born and raised in Otautahi in Aranui. My whānau, we're still there. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. Te reo was not readily spoken at home. But we had one key po in our whare, and that was haka. So every weekend, our parents used to whip us into the van and take us off to the local Kereru Sports and Culture Club, it was called back then, where tamariki, pakeke and their kaumata would get together on a Sunday and just jam waiata and learn waiata and haka. Me not knowing it back then, and this is going to come to a point of impact later, all right, soon, so just bear with me. As I grew to the age of, I think it was 7, and I used to go to Avondale Primary School. I was probably the 1% of te ao Māori in that school. And myself, growing up with kapa haka in one hand and I guess sport and te ao Pākehā in the other, I never knew them any different. So when we would go to kapa haka, it was haka. I presumed every child at my age was going to kapa haka on the weekend, you know. It wasn't until I actually was approached by the headmaster at that time and he had asked me if I would stand on the stage and perform a haka for my fellow students and staff there. Which at the age of 7 is quite a daunting task to be bestowed upon a young fella, especially when he doesn't realise any different. So I went home, talked to my parents, talked to my whānau, and my big brother came with me. And we both performed it. And I stood there and tears were dripping from my eyes. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I was just filled with this wairua, this ihi, this energy that fed me up, so much so that it just burst out as tears during the haka as well. As I moved through life, I was lucky. I'm probably one of the luckiest in my generation at that time where There's a proverb of Apirana. E tipu e rea mō ngā rā o tō ao, ko tō ngākau ki ngā taonga o tātou tipuna, ko tō ringa ki te rākau a te Pākehā hei tiki mō tō mahunga. So it is, grow O seed for the rest of your days. With one hand, you hold the treasures of your tipuna. With the other hand, you hold the staff of the Pākehā. And so I was able to grow in a bicultural setting and it was fine with me. But for a lot of my generation, it didn't suit them. And so I felt it upon me as a young age that there was something different here. And as we grew and grew, we ended up at Aranui High School under the tutelage of the famed Tihi Puanaki, who for 50 plus years had delivered te reo to young Māori in the Aranui district for many, many years. I'm only one of many. And she taught me passion. She showed me passion and how passion can become what you do. Fast forward a few years, all that passion built up in me, all this learning, I guess, engaged. And it wasn't until I had started a career as a lecturer at Ara Institute of Canterbury, as it's known now, but back in the day it was CPI2. And the whare was called Te Puna Wānaka, which is what it's still called anyway, so that's all good. It wasn't until then that I realised the power of storytelling. And so in everyday class, I would always try to bring narrative into context. I would always try to teach language and narrative together, because to me, like what I was saying to you, my world was one. I thought everybody did what I did. Yeah? So bringing narrative into context with our Māori and then sort of boxing it up nicely, throwing a little bit of a korowai over top, and then presenting it to our young generation to show them that this is how we can live, this is how we can be. My role now, my darling and I, we have a company called Mahi Mahi Productions, and I love to compose. I love to write haka. I also write theatre, doing a little bit of TV stuff at the moment as well, looking into animation. But everything that we're doing now is built off narrative, is built off storytelling and the power of that. I don't want my kids coming home watching TV and Dragon Ball Z's on, Iron Man's on. I want them to see Māori narrative. I want them to hear Māori storytelling and how that connects to them in their day and age. Yes, these things may have happened over 1,000 or so years ago, but if we look hard enough and we understand well enough, we can see context to how we operate today. I recently wrote a series of 3 plays, and it's sort of like a beast of mine that I dream is that this becomes animation. But I've written 2 of the 3, and it's about 4 mokopuna, 4 grandchildren that derive from 4 atua Māori, 4 deities, and they're sent to a school of learning to harness the powers that will be, over time, succeeded to them, and the trials and tribulations that they go through to get there. So this is a context that our rangatahi can see, they deal with on a daily, but we're putting it in a perspective where traditional Māori narrative can actually help them get over the line or get to the next step. These are some of the things that, I wish I had when I was a little bit younger. Some of that harnessing of the passion within these young artists that are growing in our very own city. And for some reason, we relinquish those skills for the want of a better industry. So part of our mahi as Mahi Mahi Productions is to bring a pou for the arts, generally in Māori and Pasifika, but for the arts here in Ōtautahi. All the mahi that I generally do now is based between Wellington and Tāmaki Makaurau. I would love to see mahi on a daily here in Ōtautahi. So those are some of the things that I've grown with and lucky enough to hold on to, and what I want to be able to give on to the next generation. And it all began with haka. It all began with the passion. It all began with understanding, it's not just a song that I'm ranting off, or kamate, the haka of Te Rauparaha is not just a set of words that he rattles off. There's a whole narrative intertwined within that. And in there lies our originality, in there lies our foundation, in there lies our whakapapa, our connection to the land and to those before us. And why we would utter them to the side for the lack of them just being in a book, I don't know. Why don't we make them come to life? And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what Hōhepa-Waitoa does on the daily now. I used to love walking into my classes and just sitting my students down, and it'll be a 3rd year, te reo te marae. These students are meant to be learning tikanga, narrative about whai kōrero and karanga, and how to operate on the marae. Man, I'm just talking narrative to them every single class. I'm laughing now, but I'm serious. Like, there's a learning outcome to that. But to understand that and operate in your traditional world, but also in this contemporary world that we live in now. And I mean, 2021 is the time for us to be more inclusive of every culture, every worldview, every whakapapa connection, because one time or another they would have crossed. And one time or another, your ancestors navigated those seas, so did mine. And if we can all capture that within our young ones and the next generation, man, I'm going to be a happy man, because the arts scene around here will be so much more colourful, rather than just seeing the plain theatre. And I'm not digging at any other type of theatre. I know for a fact that we don't see enough of our indigenous theatre here on stage in Ōtautahi. So, yeah, thanks for letting me come and rattle your ears a little bit. And I'd love to keep in contact with you in the future, and hope that you can move on to using narrative and the power of storytelling to engage our people of tomorrow and move forward together on the same waka. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, Tēnā tātou katoa.